Dr. Lisa Martinez pulled the old camping tent from the back of her truck and looked around at the thick forest of Montana. The tall pine trees reached up toward the clear blue sky, and the air smelled fresh and clean. She had been looking forward to this camping trip with her granddaughter Emma for months. After spending so many years studying strange animals and plants in her laboratory, Lisa needed some quiet time in nature. Emma jumped out of the truck and ran toward the trees. At 8 years old, she was full of energy and curiosity about everything around her. Her long brown hair bounced as she ran, and her bright green eyes sparkled with excitement. She had been talking about this camping trip for weeks, asking her grandmother countless questions about the animals they might see and the adventures they might have. "Grandma, can we explore the forest after we set up camp?" Emma called out, her voice echoing through the trees. Lisa smiled and nodded. "Of course, sweetheart. But first we need to get our camp ready before it gets dark." The campsite was perfect. They had found a small clearing next to a bubbling stream, surrounded by tall trees that would give them shade during the hot afternoon. Lisa began unpacking their supplies while Emma collected smooth stones from the stream bank. The little girl had a habit of finding beauty in simple things, and Lisa loved watching her granddaughter discover the world around her. As Lisa struggled with the tent poles, she heard Emma gasp loudly from somewhere deeper in the forest. The sound was not one of fear, but of complete wonder and amazement. Lisa dropped the tent and hurried toward the sound of her granddaughter's voice. "Emma, where are you?" Lisa called out, pushing through the thick bush and low tree branches. "Over here, Grandma!" "You have to see this." Lisa followed Emma's voice until she reached a small meadow hidden among the trees. What she saw there made her stop breathing for a moment. In the center of the meadow lay the most incredible creature she had ever seen. It was enormous, at least 30 feet long and nearly as tall as the trees around it. Its body was covered in scales that changed color as the sunlight hit them, shifting from deep purple to bright silver to pale blue. The creature looked like the dragons from old fairy tales, but this was real. Its wings were folded against its sides, and its long neck was stretched out on the ground. Most shocking of all, Emma was sitting right next to its huge head, her small hand resting gently on its snout. "Emma, get away from there right now," Lisa shouted, running toward her granddaughter, but Emma looked up at her grandmother with calm, peaceful eyes. "It's okay, Grandma. He's not dangerous. He's just hurt and scared." Lisa stopped running and looked more carefully at the dragon. She could see now that the creature was injured. There were deep cuts on its wings, and its breathing was slow and labored. But what worried her most were its eyes. They were covered with a thick, milky substance that seemed to glow with a strange light. "He can't see, Grandma," Emma said softly, stroking the dragon's snout. "His eyes are sick, and he's lost. He was trying to fly home to his family, but something bad happened to him." Lisa felt her heart pounding as she slowly approached the dragon. As a scientist, she had studied many strange animals, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. This was clearly not any creature from Earth. The dragon's scales had patterns that seemed to shift and change, and there was something about its presence that felt otherworldly. "How do you know all this, Emma?" Lisa asked, kneeling down beside her. "Granddaughter." Emma looked up at her with those wise green eyes that sometimes seemed too old for her young face. "He told me. Not with words like we use, but with feelings and pictures in my mind. His name is Blue, and he's very far from home." Lisa reached out slowly to touch the dragon's scales. They felt warm and smooth, almost like polished stone. The creature turned its head slightly toward her, and she could see intelligence in those clouded eyes. This was not just an animal. This was a thinking, feeling being who was in pain and needed help. "He's burning up with fever," Lisa said, feeling the heat coming from the dragon's body. "Whatever infected his eyes has spread through his whole system." Emma stood up and walked closer to the dragon's head. She began making soft, musical sounds that Lisa had never heard before. The sounds were not quite singing and not quite speaking, but they seemed to have a calming effect on the dragon. Its breathing became slower and more regular, and some of the tension left its massive body. "Where did you learn to make those sounds, Emma?" Lisa asked, amazed by what she was seeing. "I don't know," Emma replied simply. The sounds just come to me when I'm around him. It's like I've always known how to talk to him." As the sun began to set, Lisa realized they would need to make camp near the dragon. The creature was too injured to be moved, and she could not leave it alone in the forest. She went back to their original campsite and brought all their supplies to the meadow. While Lisa set up the tent, Emma stayed close to the dragon, continuing to make those strange musical sounds. The creature seemed to understand her, responding with low, rumbling sounds that were almost like purring. Lisa found herself thinking that this was the most impossible thing that had ever happened to her, but somehow it felt right. That night, as they sat around their small campfire, Lisa tried to examine the dragon's eyes more closely. But every time she came near, the creature became restless and agitated. Only Emma could calm him down, and only when she was touching him did he seem comfortable. "He's afraid of me," Lisa said, sitting back down by the fire. "He's not afraid of you," Emma explained. "He's afraid of what might happen if the wrong people find him. He's been hiding for a long time, waiting for someone who could help him." Lisa looked at her granddaughter in the firelight. Emma had always been special, but tonight she seemed different somehow. There was a glow about her that Lisa had never noticed before, and her eyes seemed to shine with their own inner light. "Emma, have you ever seen anything like this before? Have you ever talked to animals this way?" Emma thought for a moment, then shook her head. "Not like this. But sometimes I dream about flying through the stars and I see creatures like Blue. In my dreams I can talk to all of them." As the night grew darker, Lisa noticed something strange happening. Emma's eyes began to fill with tears as she looked at the dragon's painful condition. But these were not ordinary tears. They seemed to glow with a soft golden light, and when they fell onto the dragon's scales, they sparkled like tiny stars. "My tears feel different when I'm sad for him," Emma said quietly. "They feel warm and tingly, like they want to help him get better." Lisa watched in amazement as one of Emma's glowing tears landed near the dragon's infected eye. The milky substance seemed to clear just a little bit where the tear had touched. She had never seen anything like it in all her years of scientific study. That night, as Emma slept peacefully next to the dragon, Lisa stayed awake thinking about what she had witnessed. She had discovered something that would change everything she thought she knew about the world. But more than that, she had discovered that her granddaughter was far more special than she had ever imagined. The dragon's breathing grew stronger through the night, and Lisa began to hope that maybe, somehow, Emma really could help this incredible creature heal. The next morning, Lisa woke up to find Emma already sitting beside the dragon. The little girl had her hand on Blue's forehead, and she was making those same musical sounds that had calmed him the night before. The dragon's breathing was better, but his eyes were still covered with the thick, cloudy infection. "Good morning, sweetheart," Lisa said softly as she crawled out of the tent. "How is our friend feeling today?" Emma looked up with a serious expression on her young face. "He's getting a little stronger, but his eyes still hurt really bad. He keeps showing me pictures in his mind of his home. It's a beautiful place with purple skies and silver oceans." Lisa knelt down next to them and gently touched the dragon's neck. His skin felt cooler than it had the night before, which was a good sign. The fever was going down. But when she looked at his eyes, she could see that the infection was still very bad. "Emma, can you ask him where he comes from? How did he get here?" Emma placed both hands on the dragon's head and closed her eyes. For several minutes, she stayed very still and quiet. When she opened her eyes again, they were filled with sadness. "He comes from very far away, Grandma. So far that it would take many lifetimes to walk there. His people travel through the sky in big ships, looking for new worlds and new friends. But something went wrong with his ship, and he crashed here." Lisa felt her heart racing. This was proof that life existed beyond Earth, and it was sitting right in front of her. "What happened to his eyes, Emma? Can you find out?" Emma closed her eyes again and listened to the dragon's thoughts. "He says there are bad things floating in the darkness between stars. Tiny things that get into your body and make you sick. They attacked his eyes first and then spread through his whole body. His people have medicines for it, but he doesn't have any with him." Lisa thought about this carefully. As a doctor who studied strange diseases, she knew that infections could Be very dangerous. But she had never heard of anything like what Emma was describing. This was an alien disease, and she had no idea how to treat it. Blue says his people get sick when they stay away from their home waters for too long, Emma continued. But he also says that Earth water is special. It's older than the water on his world, and it has power in it. Lisa looked toward the stream that ran near their campsite. You mean the water here might help him? Emma nodded, but then she looked sad again. The water here is good, but it's not strong enough by itself. It needs something more to fight the sickness in his eyes. Throughout the day, Lisa watched as Emma took care of the dragon. The little girl brought him water from the stream, which he drank gratefully. She gathered soft moss to make him more comfortable, and she never stopped talking to him in that strange, musical language, but Lisa noticed something else happening. Every time Emma looked at Blue's painful eyes, her own eyes filled with tears, and these tears were not normal. They glowed with a soft, golden light that seemed to come from somewhere deep inside her. Emma, your tears look different when you're sad for Blue, Lisa said gently. Have you ever noticed that before? Emma wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. They started doing that when I was little and really sick. Remember when I had that bad cough and fever? The doctor said I might die, but then I got better really fast. Lisa remembered that time very well. Emma had been only 5 years old when she got pneumonia. The doctors had been very worried, but then Emma had recovered completely in just one day. At the time, Lisa had thought it was just a miracle. You were crying a lot that day, Lisa said slowly, and the next morning you were completely well. Emma nodded. I was so scared and I cried and cried. But then I felt warm all over and the sickness just went away. As the day went on, Emma's tears continued to glow whenever she looked at Blue's infected eyes. Lisa began to wonder if there was a connection between Emma's unusual tears and her quick recovery from pneumonia years ago. That evening, as they sat by their campfire, Emma suddenly stood up and walked over to Blue. The dragon lifted his great head and looked at her with his clouded eyes. Emma placed her hands gently on either side of his face. I want to help you see again, she whispered. I don't know if it will work, but I want to try. Emma closed her eyes and thought about how much she wanted Blue to feel better. She thought about his home with the purple skies and silver oceans. She thought about his family, who were probably worried about him. As she thought about all of this, tears began to flow down her cheeks, but these tears were different from any that Lisa had ever seen. They glowed with a bright, warm light that seemed to pulse with its own heartbeat. As the tears fell from Emma's face onto Blue's eyes, something amazing began to happen. The milky infection that covered the dragon's eyes started to clear away wherever Emma's tears touched. It was like watching clouds disappear from the sky. Slowly, very slowly. Blue's natural eye color began to show through. Lisa watched in complete amazement as her granddaughter's tears washed away an alien infection that no Earth medicine could have cured. The tears seemed to know exactly what to do, seeking out the diseased parts and healing them with gentle, golden light. Blue made a sound that was somewhere between a purr and a song. It was a sound of relief and gratitude. As his vision began to return, he could see Emma's face clearly for the first time. His eyes, now free of infection, were the most beautiful thing Lisa had ever seen. They were deep blue like the ocean, with flecks of silver that sparkled like stars. It's working, Grandma, Emma said excitedly, though she was still crying healing tears. He can see me. He says I look just like someone from his dreams. For 3 days, Emma continued to heal Blue's eyes with her special tears. Each day, his vision got better and clearer, and as his eyes healed, other amazing things began to happen. Blue started to communicate more easily, not just with Emma, but with Lisa as well. Lisa found that she could understand some of Blue's musical language, especially when Emma was there to help translate. Blue told them stories about his homeworld and his people, called the Drakmari. He showed them mental pictures of cities that floated in the clouds and gardens that grew under the light of 3 suns. But the most important thing Blue told them was about Emma's tears. He said that they contained something he called the essence of the birth world. According to Blue, Emma's tears had the power to heal any sickness because they carried the life force of the planet where all life had begun. He says Earth is the mother of all worlds, Emma explained to her grandmother. A long, long time ago, life from Earth spread to all the other planets in the sky. That's why my tears can heal him. It's like I'm giving him a little piece of home. By the end of the third day, Blue's eyes were completely healed. He could see perfectly, and the fever that had been making him weak was completely gone. As the sun set on their third day together, Blue looked up at the stars with his newly healed eyes and made a decision that would change everything. He activated a small device that had been hidden in his scales. The device began to glow and hum with energy. Blue was sending a message to his people, telling them that he was alive and well. But the message contained much more than just his location. Lisa didn't know it yet, but Blue's message was about to bring visitors to Earth. Many, many visitors. The small device that Blue had activated continued to glow throughout the night. Lisa watched it with growing worry, wondering what kind of message the dragon had sent into space. Emma, however, seemed completely calm about it. She sat next to Blue, running her fingers along his now healthy scales, listening to his musical explanations about what was happening. He's telling his family that he's safe, Emma said to her grandmother. But he's also telling them something much more important. He's telling them that he found the first world. Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. What do you mean by the first world, Emma? Emma looked up at the stars that were beginning to appear in the darkening sky. Blue says that all the smart people in the sky came from one special planet a very, very long time ago. His people have been looking for that planet for thousands of years. They call it the first world, and they always wondered if it was real or just a story. Lisa sat down heavily on a fallen log. The meaning of Emma's words was starting to sink in. Are you saying that Earth is this first world? That all life in space came from here? Emma nodded seriously. Blue says that when I healed him with my tears, he could feel the connection. My tears have something in them that only exists on the planet where everything began. That's how he knows for sure that Earth is the first world. Blue lifted his great head and looked directly at Lisa. For the first time, she could see the full intelligence in his healed eyes. When he spoke in his musical language, Lisa found that she could understand more of it than before. It was as if Emma's presence was helping her learn to communicate with him. Blue told them the story of his people, and the great search that had lasted for thousands of years. Long ago, according to the oldest stories of the Drakmari, all life in the galaxy had come from one world. This world was said to be covered in blue oceans and green lands, with a yellow sun that gave life to everything it touched. The legends say that the children of the first world spread across the stars, Emma translated as Blue continued his story. Some traveled in great ships, while others were carried by forces that no one remembers anymore. Over time, they forgot where they came from. They became different kinds of people living on different worlds, but they all started from the same place. Lisa listened with amazement as Blue explained that every intelligent species in the galaxy shared the same basic genetic pattern. They all had the same building blocks of life, just arranged in different ways. Some had scales like Blue's people, others had fur or feathers or smooth skin like humans. But deep inside their cells, they all carried the memory of their common beginning. That's why Emma's tears could heal me, Blue continued through Emma's translation. Her tears carry the pure essence of the first world. They have the power to fix anything that has gone wrong with the children who left home long ago. Lisa thought about her granddaughter's mysterious ability to heal. It had seemed like such a small personal thing when Emma had recovered from pneumonia as a child. Now she was learning that this ability was connected to something much larger than she had ever imagined. But why Emma? Lisa asked. Why does she have this power when other humans don't? Blue's explanation was both simple and incredible. He said that the first world always kept some of its children at home to be the guardians of the original life force. These guardians carried the power to heal and restore the children who had been lost or damaged during their travels among the stars. Emma is a guardian of the first world, Emma said, speaking Blue's words. There are others like her on Earth, but they are very rare. Most of them don't even know what they are until something like this happens. As the night grew darker, Blue's communication device began receiving responses to his message. The device made soft chiming sounds and lights blinked on its surface in complex patterns. Each chime meant that another group of space travelers had received Blue's message and was responding. Who is answering? Lisa asked, feeling both excited and terrified. Emma listened carefully to Blue's explanation. Lots of different people from lots of different worlds. The Drakmari ships are closest, so they'll get here first. But there are others coming too. Blue says they've been waiting their whole lives for news about the first world. Blue showed them mental images of the ships that were heading toward Earth. Lisa saw vessels of incredible beauty and strangeness. Some looked like living creatures, with wings and flowing tentacles. Others were geometric shapes that seemed to bend light around them. All of them were much larger than anything humans had ever built. How many ships are coming? Lisa asked, though she was almost afraid to hear the answer. Emma was quiet for a long time as Blue shared more information with her. When she finally spoke, her voice was filled with wonder. 13,000 ships are coming from Blue's people alone, and they're just the first ones. Blue says that once word spreads through the galaxy, many more will come. Lisa felt her knees go weak. 13,000 alien ships coming to Earth because her granddaughter had healed a dragon's blindness with her tears. She thought about the governments of the world, the military forces, the scientists who would all want to know what was happening. This was going to change everything. When will they arrive? Lisa asked. The first ships will be here in 3 days, Emma replied. Blue's mother is leading them. She's very important among the Drakmari. They call her the matriarch. Blue began to explain what would happen when his people arrived. The Drakmari were peaceful explorers, but they followed ancient customs when it came to finding something as important as the first world. They would not simply land and start making demands. Instead, they would ask permission to come down to the planet's surface. But who will they ask permission from? Lisa wondered aloud. Emma looked at her grandmother with those wise green eyes. They'll ask the guardian who healed their scout. They'll ask me. Lisa realized that her 8-year-old granddaughter was about to become the most important person on Earth. The first contact between humanity and an alien civilization would depend on Emma's decisions and actions. Blue continued to share information about what the Drakmari knew about other species in the galaxy. There were the Zephyrins, who looked like giant butterflies and could fly through space without ships. The Crystallians lived inside living rocks and spoke by making their bodies ring like bells. The Aquarians were like huge jellyfish that swam through both water and the vacuum of space. All of these species, and many others, had legends about the first world. All of them had been searching for their origins. And now, thanks to Emma's simple act of kindness toward an injured creature, they would all know where to find their ancestral home. As the night grew late, more and more responses came through Blue's communication device. Each response meant more ships heading toward Earth. Lisa tried to imagine what it would be like when the sky filled with alien vessels. She wondered if humanity was ready for such a dramatic change. Blue says we don't need to be afraid, Emma said softly, as if reading her grandmother's thoughts. The children of the first world have been waiting to come home for a very long time. They're not coming to hurt us. They're coming to remember where they came from. Lisa looked up at the stars, knowing that somewhere out there, thousands of ships were racing toward Earth. In 3 days, everything would change. But as she watched Emma gently stroking Blue's scales and listening to his stories about the wonders of the galaxy, she began to feel that maybe this change would be a good thing. After all, if the rest of the universe was filled with beings like Blue, perhaps humanity was about to gain not just visitors but family. 3 days passed faster than Lisa had thought possible. She and Emma had moved their camp to a larger clearing where Blue felt more comfortable. The dragon had grown stronger each day, and his scales now sparkled with health. But more importantly, his communication device had been working non-stop, receiving messages from ships that were getting closer and closer to Earth. On the morning of the third day, Emma woke up very early and looked toward the sky. "They're here, Grandma," she said. "Quietly, I can feel them." Lisa crawled out of the tent and looked up, but she couldn't see anything unusual. The sky was still the normal blue color, with white clouds floating peacefully across it. "Are you sure, sweetheart?" Emma nodded and placed her hand on Blue's head. After a moment of silent communication, she turned back to her grandmother. "Blue says they're hiding behind the moon right now. They're waiting for the sun to go down before they show themselves. They don't want to scare people." As the day went on, strange things began to happen around the world. Every radio and television station on Earth started receiving the same message at exactly the same time. The message was simple but shocking. "We come seeking the healer of the first world. We come in peace to honor the birthright." Lisa watched the news reports on her small camping radio with growing amazement. World leaders were calling emergency meetings. Military forces were preparing for the unknown. Scientists were trying to figure out how aliens had managed to break into every communication system on the planet at once. "The whole world is going crazy," Lisa said to Emma. "Everyone wants to know what's happening." Emma was sitting next to Blue, both of them looking very calm despite all the excitement. "Blue says his people wanted to make sure everyone on Earth knew they were coming. They didn't want to surprise anyone or make anyone think they were trying to hide." As the sun began to set, Lisa noticed that Blue was becoming more excited. His scales were changing colors more quickly, and he was making soft musical sounds that seemed happy and welcoming. Emma was translating his words, but she was also getting excited herself. "Blue's mother is in the biggest ship," Emma explained. "She's been worried about him for weeks. She thought he was dead." Just as the last light of day faded from the sky, the first ships appeared. They came slowly and gracefully, like huge birds made of light. Lisa had never seen anything so beautiful in her entire life. The ships were different sizes and shapes, but they all had a similar glow that made them look like living creatures rather than machines. "Oh my goodness," Lisa whispered as more and more ships appeared in the sky. "There are so many of them." Emma was counting under her breath as each new ship became visible. 100, 200, 500, she said, her voice filled with wonder. "Blue says 13,000 ships are coming, but they're spreading out so they don't all appear in one place." The ships moved silently across the sky, positioning themselves in perfect formations. Above different parts of the Earth, Lisa could see that they were being very careful not to get too close to cities or airports. They seemed to understand that humans might be frightened by their sudden appearance. Blue's communication device began chiming more loudly than ever before. The dragon lifted his head and made a sound that was like singing and crying at the same time. It was a sound of pure joy. "The biggest ship is coming now," Emma said, pointing toward the eastern sky. "That's where Blue's mother is." Lisa looked where Emma was pointing and saw a ship that was larger than all the others. It was shaped like a giant flower, with petals that seemed to be made of liquid silver. The ship moved slowly and majestically, and Lisa could feel a sense of great importance coming from it. As the ship came closer, it began to descend toward their clearing. Lisa felt her heart pounding as she realized that they were about to meet the leader of an alien civilization. But Emma seemed completely calm and ready. The ship landed softly in the meadow, barely making a sound as it touched the ground. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, part of the ship opened like a blooming flower, and a figure emerged. Blue's mother was even more magnificent than Blue himself. She was taller and more graceful, with scales that seemed to contain entire galaxies of stars. Her eyes were the deepest blue Lisa had ever seen, and when she looked at her son, those eyes filled with tears of joy. The reunion between Blue and his mother was beautiful to watch. They wrapped their long necks around each other and made musical sounds that needed no translation. Lisa could feel the love and relief flowing between them. After several minutes, Blue's mother turned her attention to Emma. The great dragon approached the little girl slowly and carefully. as if she was approaching something precious and fragile. When she spoke, her voice was like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. Emma listened carefully to the dragon's words, then looked up at Lisa. She says, "Thank you for taking care of Blue." She says her name is Matriarch Zara, and she's the leader of all the Drakmari people. Matriarch Zara continued speaking, and Emma translated her words. She says that what I did for Blue was more important than I know. By healing him with my tears, I proved that Earth really is the first world. She says her people have been searching for this place for 3,000 years. Lisa watched as the matriarch knelt down to Emma's level. The massive dragon moved with incredible grace and gentleness. When she spoke again, her voice was filled with emotion. "She wants to know if she can see my tears," Emma said. "She says they're sacred to her people." Emma looked at Blue, who was still weak from his ordeal, and her eyes filled with the same glowing tears that had healed him. As the tears fell from her face, Matriarch Zara watched with complete amazement. When one of Emma's tears touched the ground, it seemed to make the grass grow greener and healthier. Matriarch Zara began to cry as well, but her tears were different from Emma's. When they hit the ground, they turned into small, beautiful crystals that sparkled like diamonds. She spoke in her musical language, and Emma translated. She says that Emma's tears are proof that the old stories were true. The first world really does have guardians who can heal the children who left home long ago. She says this is the most important day in the history of her people. More ships began landing in the area around their clearing. Lisa saw creatures that looked like Blue's people, but also others that were completely different. Some looked like giant butterflies with wings that shimmered like oil on water. Others were tall and thin, with skin that seemed to be made of living crystal. "All these different people are from different worlds," Emma explained as she watched the aliens emerging from their ships. But Blue says they all have the same ancestors. They all came from Earth a very long time ago. As the night went on, more and more ships arrived. The sky became filled with lights as thousands of vessels took their places in orbit around Earth. Lisa realized that she was witnessing the most important moment in human history. But the most amazing thing was watching Emma with all these alien visitors. The little girl showed no fear at all. She walked among the different species, talking to them in their own languages, healing small injuries with her tears and making them all feel welcome. How does she know how to talk to all of them? Lisa wondered aloud. Matriarch Zara heard her question and answered through Emma's translation. She says that all the children of the first world speak the same language deep in their hearts. Emma can understand them because she's a guardian, and guardians can speak to all the children of Earth no matter how far they've traveled. As Lisa watched her granddaughter surrounded by beings from across the galaxy, she realized that Emma was no longer just her little granddaughter. She was now the bridge between Earth and the stars, the living proof that all life in the universe was connected by bonds that could never be broken. The days following the arrival of the alien ships were unlike anything Earth had ever experienced. News crews from around the world gathered in Montana, trying to get close to the area where Emma and Lisa were meeting with the visitors from space. But the aliens had created a gentle barrier around the clearing that kept unwanted visitors away while allowing Emma and her grandmother to come and go as they pleased. Emma had become the most famous person on Earth, but she didn't seem to understand what all the fuss was about. To her, the alien visitors were simply new friends who needed help and understanding. She spent her days moving between different groups of aliens, listening to their stories and healing the sick ones with her special tears. Lisa found herself working as Emma's translator and helper. The world's governments had sent important people to speak with the aliens, but they all discovered the same thing. The visitors would only communicate through Emma. She was the guardian they had come to find, and they would not make any agreements or decisions without her approval. "It's too much responsibility for a little girl," Lisa worried aloud to Matriarch Zara one evening. The great dragon looked at Emma, who was sitting with a group of crystal-skinned beings from a world called Luminara. The little girl was teaching them a human song while they showed her how to make their bodies glow with different colors. She is not just a little girl anymore, Matriarch Zara said through the translation device they had given to Lisa. She is the first guardian to awaken in many centuries. She carries the wisdom of the first world in her heart, even if she does not fully understand it yet. As the weeks passed, more ships arrived from distant parts of the galaxy. Each new group brought stories of their own worlds and their own searches for the first world. Emma listened to all of them with patience and kindness, and she seemed to understand exactly what each group needed. The Aquarians, who looked like giant jellyfish, needed clean water to heal their damaged ships. Emma led them to hidden springs in the mountains, and her tears purified the water until it was perfect for their needs. The Windwalkers, who looked like living clouds, needed special crystals to repair their energy systems. Emma somehow knew exactly where to find these crystals buried deep in the earth, but the most important thing Emma did was help the different alien groups remember their connection to each other. Many of the species had been enemies for hundreds of years, fighting wars over territory and resources. But when Emma brought them together in the same space, they began to remember that they all came from the same place. It's like they were all pieces of the same family that got separated, Emma explained to her grandmother. When they're near me, they can feel that connection again. World leaders finally realized that they needed to work with Emma rather than try to control the situation. The President of the United States, along with leaders from other countries, came to Montana to meet with Emma and the alien visitors. "We want to welcome your friends to Earth," the President said to Emma during their first meeting. "But we need to know what they want from us." Emma listened to the question, then spent several minutes talking with different alien representatives. When she turned back to the human leaders, her answer was simple but profound. "They don't want anything from us," Emma said. "They want to give us things. They want to share their knowledge and their technology. They want to help us become part of the galactic family. But most of all, they want to stay close to the first world so they can remember who they really are." The negotiations that followed were unlike any in human history. Instead of arguing about territory or trade agreements, the discussions focused on how to help humanity grow and learn. The aliens offered to share technologies that could cure diseases, clean up pollution, and provide unlimited clean energy. In return, they asked only for permission to build small colonies on Earth where they could study and learn from the planet that had given birth to all life. Emma played a central role in every discussion. She had an amazing ability to understand what each group needed and to find solutions that made everyone happy. When the crystal beings wanted to build their homes in caves, Emma knew exactly which caves would be perfect. When the flying creatures needed tall mountains for their nests, she guided them to places where they wouldn't disturb human cities. "How do you know all these things?" Lisa asked her granddaughter one day. Emma thought about the question for a moment, then smiled. "It's like the earth tells me things, Grandma. When I put my hands on the ground and close my eyes, I can feel where everything belongs. The earth wants to help all its children be happy." As the months passed, amazing changes began happening all over the world. The aliens' clean energy technology ended pollution in many cities. Their medical knowledge helped cure diseases that had troubled humanity for centuries. Their farming techniques ended hunger in many parts of the world, but perhaps the most important change was in how humans thought about themselves and their place in the universe. Learning that Earth was the birthplace of all galactic life gave humanity a new sense of purpose and responsibility. Emma grew and changed during this time as well. Though she was still a child in many ways, she carried herself with the wisdom and grace of someone much older. She learned to speak dozens of alien languages fluently, and she could move between different groups of beings with ease and confidence. Blue stayed close to Emma throughout all these changes, though his mother had offered to take him home to the Drakmari worlds. He chose to remain on Earth as Emma's friend and protector. He had grown larger and stronger, and his scales now shimmered with colors that seemed to reflect the lights of all the different alien ships. "Blue says he belongs here now," Emma told Lisa one day. "He says Earth is his home too, because this is where he learned what it means to be healed by love." The greatest moment came when the Galactic Council, made up of representatives from hundreds of worlds, formally recognized Earth as the first world and Emma as its guardian. The ceremony took place in the same meadow where Emma had first healed Blue's blindness. Thousands of aliens gathered to witness the event, along with humans from all over the world. Emma stood in the center of the circle wearing a simple white dress with Blue beside her and Lisa holding her hand. When Matriarch Zara placed the Guardian's crown on Emma's head, something magical happened. Emma's tears began to glow more brightly than ever before, and everywhere they fell, beautiful flowers bloomed instantly. The light from her tears spread outward in waves, touching every being in the meadow and filling them all with a sense of peace and connection. "Today, the children of the stars have come home," Matriarch Zara announced to the gathered crowd. "And today, the first world welcomes all its children back to the family they never truly left." As the ceremony ended and the celebration began, Lisa watched her granddaughter surrounded by beings from across the galaxy. Emma was laughing and playing with alien children, sharing stories with ancient elders, and healing anyone who needed her help. Lisa realized that the scared little girl who had found an injured dragon in the forest was gone. In her place stood a young woman who carried the hopes and dreams of an entire galaxy. Emma had become exactly what the universe needed, a bridge between worlds, a healer of ancient wounds, and a living reminder that love and kindness could overcome any obstacle. The tears that had once healed a single dragon's blindness had opened the eyes of an entire galaxy to the possibility of unity, peace, and hope. And at the center of it all was Emma, the guardian of the first world, whose simple act of compassion had changed the course of history forever.